head here. I'm handing this over to the three of you.
Oh my goodness.
Why has it divided the nation? Why do people not like it? And
Because
say
people
it's
are
boring?
evil and miserable and they need to be smacked around the chops.
I think some people think it's clever not to like it, in the same way as they didn't like The Artist a few years ago, because the original musical in this case and the original silent movies in that case were seen to be sort of authentic, and this was seen to be a pastiche. But I think they're missing out. I think it's a bit joyless not to like this, because it's beautiful and lovely music and beautifully made.
Thank you. You said it all. There we go. Ian.
Well, I've been listening to it non-stop and I've enjoyed it
Same
very much.
here.
But I guess people are entitled not to like it if they don't
Yeah.
like it. I did see one criticism that accused Ryan Gosling's character of being a jazz snob, and I
saw that one.
of kind of forcing her to go and listen to jazz endlessly.
I hate
until
jazz.
Well, exactly. You see, and until she's forced to like it.
It's odd that John Legend is seen as the giving in and the the sort of cop out that this is a bad thing. His music, and he's so brilliant, and yet that's a bit of a weak plot point, I think, in it. But
It's
hey,
not
apart from
perfect,
that, it's great fun.
But
Do you know, that's what we're talking about, really, is that everything is too black and white, except The Artist. Because you're not allowed to have anything in between. You're not allowed to say, I
so
really
true.
rather like it. It's not perfect, but it has to be absolutely love or absolutely hate. That's where we are at the moment. in this
You need
insane
more
world.
nuance, I think.
That's very interesting. Of course, going back to Sherlock, which I am obsessed with. Congratulations! We are going to be definitely talking about your play. but those 3 episodes just transfixed me, and this has been my obsession: La La Land and Sherlock, and I cannot get either out of my head. And I really mean that. It's not just because you're sitting here. And I thought episode 2 was extraordinary. We can't give too much away because I know some people haven't seen it. And then episode 3 then played with my mind so brilliantly that I'm still working it out. And it's a bizarre thing with Sherlock. It seems to be the same. It seems to be love or hate. There's no sort of middle ground with Sherlock.
Well, you can't please all the people all the time, and nor should you try to. We're very proud of it, and it's an entertainment. That's all it is. It's we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just a very nice, popular show. And if the trouble is, you see this, and it's not just this country, but it is mostly this country. If you become a success at something, then they just want to chop you down, and it's time to kick Sherlock, and that's exactly what's happened.
But it's when you're quite right. When something's a success, they go, "Oh, now it's your turn." But also,
It's called tall poppy syndrome.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's the name for it, tall poppy.
I think that originated in Australia, didn't it? I remember years ago Kylie having the same thing.
It all comes back to Kylie in the end.
It always
Everything
Just for
comes
me
back to
personally.
Kylie.
I mean, I'm not saying me personally, it all comes back to Kylie.
But now for you, and I read that the very first thing you wanted to do when you were a child, you wanted to write Doctor Who. Is that
The
true?
very first thing, I think, probably eating.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Well,
vomiting. Yes, no.
having your nap.
Doctor Who is my first, really, pretty much my first memory. Yeah, is watching John Pertwee. So yes, it's always been part of my life, huge part of my life.
So what is it like then to do it?
It's wonderful and continues to be so. I mean, I've been writing for it since it came back incredibly 12 years ago now. Been back for 12 years, which is astonishing. And it's a continuing wonder to be part of it. Of course, I worry that it would not be the same if I worked on it. But it's never taken the gilt off the gingerbread at all. It's still amazing to type the words interior TARDIS, etc. It's still amazing, and it's lovely to be part of an ongoing story. The fabric of that show, which has been with us for 53 years. It's amazing to be even a small part of that.
So that's the same as somebody meeting their idol from when they were a child. You always get worried that if you meet them, they're never going to quite be like they are. But
yeah, and of course that does happen. That can happen, but
It didn't with Kylie.
It's really all goes back to Kylie.
It does come back.
And Kylie was in Doctor Who, so somehow everything fits.
Is this the opposite of ad reductum Hitler, that every sort of argument or debate comes back to Hitler?
Kylie.
Today it's Kylie.
This could be like the positive version of that.
I've done an audio of Doctor Who.
Have you?
Yeah.
You enjoy yourself? Who's your doctor?
One of the McGanns.
Oh yeah, Paul.
Paul. That's it, yeah.
I'm supposed to be
See,
doing
Doctor
a
Who
film with
Ex
Colin
Canonica,
Baker.
though, isn't
It's
he?
weird, isn't it?
Paul
Yeah.
McCann.
Everybody gets, you see, Doctor Who,
There's
everybody has those memories of when they were a child, and I do remember hiding behind the sofa. I absolutely love it. Ian, we're going to get to you now. Now, here's the thing, because I don't want to ignore you any longer, because when you walked in the room, I did two very embarrassing things. I said, "Oh my word, you're so handsome."
She did.
You really are. And also, I said, "Mark, I cannot believe I've known you for 20 years." So League of Gentlemen was 20 years ago. How long have you two been together now?
17 years.
So it was only just after that.
Yeah. Mark was just going off to film the second series of the League when we met.
How did you meet?
We met online. We met on the internet.
Oh.
It had barely been invented then.
Was it a wind-up one?
Yeah, you had
Yeah.
to I had to pedal really furiously to kind of get it
Were
to
you
work.
listening to
get it connect.
Kylie whilst you went
Probably.
online?
I was actually, because I didn't even have the internet at home at that time. I was in one of those. Do you remember those big Easy Everything internet
Oh,
cafes that were owned by
Orange.
whatever his name was,
Yeah.
Stavros or
Yeah.
who owns the
Stelios.
Stelios,
Yeah.
that's right. At the big one at Victoria, and I was chatting away and.
Only easy
met
judges
Mark.
left now, isn't
Yeah.
there? All the
Or maybe Easy
it,
Bus.
it
I
wasn't
don't
so
know.
easy in the end.
I love that it's 17 years. So now, let's talk about the show that you're in, and we'll go back to other things as well. So the boys in the band, it's at the Vaudeville Theatre for only 2 weeks.
Well, because we did it.
For 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, we did it. We did a run at the Park Theatre last autumn, and then we did a little UK tour after that, which took us up to November.
Little UK.
Yes,
Not big.
3 weeks. No, I mean little in terms of time, as opposed to house the size of the country. And it went really well, and we sold out at the park. So we obviously knew that there was an audience, and the producers thought, well, we want to take it on somewhere. But just in terms of cast availability, because they wanted to keep all 9 of us together, and just having slots for West End theatres that were available, there was only the Vaudeville had this 2-week venue in between Dead Funny finishing, which ironically stars Steve Pemberton, who obviously was from
Part of the League.
and before Amanda Holden arrives there, the end
Not
of
yet part of the League.
February,
No.
March.
Somehow, no, I can't.
She
see-
never-
No.
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 So there was just this 2-week window where everyone's availability matched up, and there was a theatre that would be the right kind of size to go in. So that's the reason, really. I mean, if it sells out all over again, who knows what
Oh,
might
I'm
happen
sure it
with
will.
us, but
And it's
just in case.
wonderful. So I'm lucky enough to have seen it. I can't believe it was 20 years ago that I saw it. That's a bit bizarre. But the boys in the band, for people who haven't seen it and don't know about it, Mark, can you tell us the premise?
Well, it is the first gay play. It was written by Mark Crowley in 1968. It's set in New York, and it's about 9 men in an apartment, and one sort of Saturday night in which a birthday party for my character Harold sort of goes awry. Very funny, very bleak at the same time, and full of surprises. And it was an absolute revolution. Each day it ran for 1,001 performances, rather brilliantly. It was going to be 1,000, and then Mark Crowley made the producers do it for one more, just so it could be like Scheherazade.
Yeah.
And then it came to London, ran for a year, I think. That was back in 1970, and it was this incredibly important, groundbreaking play. It was the first play in which gay men were seen as they actually are, as opposed to some sort of coded version in a different sort of environment. And became extremely popular, very controversial almost immediately for being sort of very...
Purely because of that.
Yeah. And over the years it's become the sort of totemic gay play. And now what's very interesting about coming back to it, close to its 50th anniversary, and what we found doing it last year at Park Theatre and on tour was extraordinary sort of... It's still extraordinarily interesting to see what sort of debate it throws up. A couple of critics thought the play dated, and then we do these Q&As with with young gay men who would just say, well, that's just my Saturday night. You know,
Really?
It was interesting
fascinating.
that the critics who thought it was dated generally tended to be, well, they weren't gay, were they?
Yeah.
They were sitting there going, oh, it's fine now, you can get married, it's all, no one's got any problems or anything. And I think a lot of the issues in the play are still completely relevant.
Mental health, as you were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
and addiction issues, and it's just fascinating. So it's all human.
Without
life,
making it sound incredibly wordy in this issue-laden play, because it's also very funny. The first half of the play is it's kind of a farce where.
But it's very poignant as well.
Yeah, exactly. It does both things. I mean, people came out from the run last time saying that they were laughing and crying, so simultaneously.
Is it difficult at the same time?
Yeah.
It's difficult to do, but you can, especially at certain times of the month for a woman. Trust me. Is it difficult when you've been in something and then you all have to come back together. Do you go through
We shall
rehearsal?
see.
Do you rehearse all over again?
We do. We don't have long. We've got a short re-rehearsal. We were actually running the lines this morning, and they were mostly there. But it's 2 months. So it's what I like to call just long enough to forget it.
Yeah.
It's rather scary. But at the moment, they were all there.
We've all been keeping in touch via our WhatsApp group there, because we've all been missing each other desperately, because we all 9 of us, because it's a brilliant cast, and they're such lovely women without sounding too soppy and sentimental about it.
You're allowed to. That's nice to hear.
But they're very talented, very funny, and very handsome as well. The publicity material and the poster.
Not as handsome as you. So here's the thing. So you're married and you live together, obviously. How working together as well. When do you say, let's not do a line run anymore, let's not talk about work, let's just not mention it? Or does it, I mean, who's the person that says, enough? Or do you just do your lines all night and all day?
We're not that enthusiastic about running lines that either of us really is saying to the other one, no, let's stop now. We've had too much fun today. It's really a case of, I mean, this morning has been the first time since we finished in November that either of us have looked at the script.
Who said let's do it? Who's the one that said
it? It was kind of a joint decision, wasn't it?
It's getting close. It's getting close.
Yeah. So no. I mean, I think we both kind of feel okay. We should probably have another look at them, but there's neither one of us is being the slave driver and saying no. We really have to do some more work on this. You talk about and we talked about it a lot, partly just because we were enjoying it so much, weren't we?
Also, maybe it's been like when Ian's Auntie Maxine asked us recently, when do you know you've stopped acting? Which was a wonderful question I didn't quite know how to answer. I don't know. Quite a deep philosophical question. Usually when I come off stage, I've stopped talking.
I think some people do, because if they're not actors, they don't do it without kind of trying to build up some big mystique about it. I think, especially when people talk about method acting and everything, I think some people kind of do think that that you're almost emotionally and physically possessed by another character, and you kind of, how do you shake that off?
Some actors would have you believe that.
Have you seen that brilliant bit of Robert Stevens? He's in a documentary when he's in Lear, and he's literally having a fag on the side of the stage, and they're chatting away, and he goes, "Oh." Puts his fag out and then goes down and does the big storm scene, within seconds. You know, that's just great technique, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah.
So how would you feel then if you were working with an actor and I think of an actor that I interviewed recently who said, I have to come off, a very well-known American Hollywood actor who said, no, I came off and I didn't want anybody to know that wasn't my real accent, so I stayed in character the whole time.
Well, I think of it, accents and things, that's all right, because they're difficult to maintain. But if you're actually sort of bringing this cloud with you and you won't, if you insist that your other half addresses you by your character, then I think you've probably got a personality disorder.
Do you ever call him Mycroft? Or is that just something I shouldn't have asked?
No.
Maybe sometimes.
Yes, you can ask it, but no, I've never done that. I suppose given that we were together about a good 10 years before Sherlock even came along, it would be a bit strange if I then suddenly slipped into calling him that.
Now, when you came up with reimagining Sherlock, I know you've been asked many times, but were you sitting in the bath? I see. This is how I hope it was like this. Mark. Were you sitting in the bath with a glass or something, and it was a lovely bubble bath, and you just went, oh, I know.
Well, no, I was with Steve Moffat, so I was definitely not in the bath. We were on a train, which has now become our. If we get on a train, we have to try and come up with a TV series. It's become a thing now.
Anyone sees you on the train, they're going to be running over.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got this idea.
No, but it was a bit of a light bulb moment. It was just a simple thing.
Really?
Yes, because we were talking about our mutual love of Sherlock Holmes, which we talked about for ages, and I said, isn't it odd, actually, that the first story, the first of the original stories, begins with Dr. Watson being sent home from war service in Afghanistan, which we were in the middle of again, not the train. We were in the middle of another Afghan war, and we just looked at each other and it was like, well, we should just do that. And because the Basil Rathbone films, which are our great inspiration, had brought it up to date in the 40s. They made Holmes fighting the Nazis and things. So it had been done before, but it suddenly occurred to us that we could just kind of blow away the cobwebs and just represent it as it was, about these two men sharing a flat, essentially. It just suddenly seemed like such an obvious idea. And as usual with these things, you look around thinking, oh God, No one thought of this.
But the best ideas. are
Yeah.
always
But it is. I mean, it is magical, and their relationship is superb. And I think Amanda incredible in it as well. But it is extraordinary that somebody asked you, and it made me very angry in the press. I like everybody get very angry about the press sometimes. But they said, "Oh, would you do it again if Benedict wouldn't do it?" It was just, these sort of random questions, and everybody obsessed with, "Oh, we saw Rathbone in the corner. Is that your homage to him?" Well, yes, and you've talked about that. And then, well, will it be happening? It's sort of become a national obsession in the press about Sherlock.
Well, it's sort of, a lot of it's just clickbait, isn't it? I mean, I think people, obviously, news sites or papers know that if they do an article about Sherlock, they're going to get hundreds of thousands of people clicking on it and reading it and upping their algorithm.
You guys just call it fake news now. Just
Yeah,
start
yeah.
shouting fake
Yes.
news.
It has become the national obsession, knowing whether it's going to come back. And if you don't mind, I'm not going to ask you, and I'm going to tell you why. Because as a family, we're so obsessed with my 15-year-old, devastated that it was over. I want to wait and see. It's a bit like not.
That's the easiest thing to do.
It's
Wait and see.
I want to be a part. I didn't want to know what had happened if I hadn't seen it, and that's why I don't want to do any spoilers. And I hope it comes back because I love it so much. But I sort of want to wait and see, and I love that you've sort of said that to people. You're again teasing people.
Well, we're not even doing that. We just don't know. It's genuinely incredibly difficult to schedule because of Benedict and Martin's availability. It might be also, it's just time. It just has its time, and the great thing for us is that we had the keys to Baker Street for a while, and there are lots of other versions coexisting with ours, and there'll be lots more to come. It's just the great thing is that Sherlock Holmes is absolutely imperishable, and we've had a fantastic time doing our version. It's obviously been extremely popular, but if it is the end, then it's a very happy way to go. But we don't know. We just don't know.
You've got to get on a train again, Mr. and see what you come up with next. Because there is that part. Surely there must be you thinking of all the other greats and thinking, "Oh, could we do something with that? Could we do something?" You must.
Tuned.
Yeah, you see.
It could be a
Right.
musical.
Oh, please.
Sherlock the musical.
No, do a musical because I'd love you to.
Oh, that'd be great.
The Boys in the Band, it opens on the 7th of February, as I said, just for 2 weeks. And I've seen it, it's outstanding. It's at the Vaudeville Theatre. Do what you can to get tickets to see these two glorious young men. Now, what we're going to do is...
That's the kindest thing anyone's ever said.
Yes, and I believe it. I actually do believe it. Now, we always have a sing-along at the end of the show, and we were going to ask you to choose it, but then I had this moment where I thought to salute the late great
Yes.
George Michael. I just adored him.
The
I was so
legend.
devastated. But I looked up. I googled boys. Because of the
You're not the first to have done
Yeah, Gabby. We believe that story.
Clear your browsing.
But then this one came up as the first song, so we're all going to sing along to this. If you pop your headphones on, they're in front of you. We always end in a sing along. I promise we're not just doing it to embarrass you. Let's all sing
Great
along
song.
to Bad
I
Boys
think
by
that's
Wham. Enjoy
the
everybody
show.
at home. Join in wherever you are. Woo woo!